My name is Yolanda Mulwa. The show is Sugar and Spice. And finally have my guest in studio with me. His name is Marvin Sissey. I hope I'm saying your name correct.
Very correct.
Sissey.
Sissey it is.
Really? Is it Kenyan? It sounds very... Let me tell you. It sounds... like from Francophone Africa, like you're from the...
We all came from Francophone Africa.
No, I did not. I came from down south. I'm 2 inches off the ground, light skin and pretty. I came from down south. I'm a Bantu. I didn't come from...
No, but all Bantus, before they came from down south, they came from west,
Congo.
And then they came down. So apparently, so apparently we all came from those sides, probably. But Sissey
our cousins. Is what Jeff is whispering in my cans. We are all cousins.
Apparently, yes, we are.
Nice to have you here.
Nice
you
to have
are
you.
the founder of Zero. Tell us a bit about yourself and Zero. How do you say zero?
Zero. The same way you are taught in kindergarten doesn't change.
Okay.
Yes,
No, but you know me, I just terms and conditions apply, and I know my TA. Gen Zs lately are like, no, my name is... I'm like, but that's written, Jeff. At is Juif. I'm like, whatever. However you just... Turkey, however you want to be addressed, I'm fine with it. So it said Zero.
So, yes. So, firstly, pleasure to finally meet you, Yolanda.
Pleasure to finally meet you
apparently
too.
You met everyone else except you.
Me.
And I think they were keeping the best for the last.
Yay.
And, so Zero. Where do I begin? Basically, I would say that Zero is sobriety promotion or advocacy movement.
Yes.
It basically promotes sobriety. And the essence of it is that we live in a world where it is very easy to find yourself pushing yourself on excesses of whatever it could be. And Zero is basically a reminder that there is an ordinary lane of sobriety and it's beautiful and you can be happy there. So that is it.
I love that. Look at this little world you've painted for us. I can see it in my head right now with flowers and balloons.
Exactly.
Should put that on a pamphlet.
Exactly.
But I want us to talk about the month of June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yes.
It feels like a little box we tick. We have the conversations for 30 days and then we continue with our lives. I don't even know why we split hairs and we have men's mental health and women's mental health.
I'm actually pretty happy that we've been given a whole of 30 days. I mean, that's the longest I feel like we deserve as men sometimes to feel hard. But yes, it's a beautiful month. It's a beautiful month and for me, it's a beautiful month because when I say men's mental health,
yes,
I am one of those particular from the tradition where I basically say, when you say men, ideally you mean as well humanity. And as far as I'm concerned, yes, the whole of humanity deserve to consider their mental health. But there's a very significant reason why we sometimes have to look at the gender aspect of it.
Yes.
In terms of women. And the major reason is, of course, the fact that unfortunately, when it comes to symptoms or effects that show that there might be a little bit of failing mental health, like suicide and depression, unfortunately, men tend to seem to suffer a little bit more. And I feel this month is a good one to reflect why and to see whether we can balance the scales and bring back everything back to sobriety.
Yes. So I'm going to read a few facts. These are international facts, of course. I've not narrowed it down to a Kenyan scale.
Yes.
So 510,000 men die from suicide globally each year.
Apparently.
Yeah, that's internationally.
Yes.
There are 4.6, let's just round it off to 5 because there's no 0.6 of a person.
Yes.
There are 5 male suicides for every 1 female suicide in South Africa. Statistics that I've gotten.
Okay.
Men are nearly 3 times more likely than women to become alcohol dependent.
Okay.
And men are more likely to use and die from illegal drugs and substances.
Okay.
Men are less likely to access psychological therapies than women. I want us to go granular. I want you to take us on a journey because I've touched on substance abuse. I've talked about suicide. I believe they are all part of the same conversation, but very different and can stand alone as conversation points. So take us to the beginning.
I think what I'd like, maybe if I remember maybe your topic correctly, in terms of mental health spiraling down to addiction.
Yes, the quiet spiral.
The quiet spiral. And the fact here is you've mentioned quite a number of areas where that spiral tends to occur.
Yes.
And I would normally put it this way, that it starts maybe with something that is, as you said, mental health, and then there is coping. And coping have all some of the issues that you've mentioned, but unfortunately, some of this coping mechanism exacerbate or make it worse in terms of the initial mental health. So you start with a problem, you try to cope or deal with that problem in a particular way, but the way that you want to deal with it makes the original problem worse. And you find yourself going deeper and deeper into that particular
like quicksand. The more you move, the more you
and maybe
sink.
The question you ask is, and you've shared a number of statistics, and statistics tend to, because you really can't you can't argue with numbers, and statistics tend to be very cold, and they tend to be very factual in your face. There seems to be an issue or a challenge with the male gender seemingly being able to deal with certain specific issues. And here we now come to how best do they prefer to deal with it. When society generally, whenever we are faced with any problem, one of the first things that you do as a human being is that you find that you'll try to solve it yourself.
Yes.
And if you're unable to solve it, you will now try to see whether, if you cannot solve it, do you have someone who can help you to solve it?
Yes.
Now, the problem comes in the fact that in terms of what I would say our gendered approach to issues, we've made it comfortable for one of the genders, if they are unable to solve it, to reach out and say, can you help me solve this?
Or to cry and wallow.
Or cry, yes.
You and I would work for this organization.
Yes.
We're having a conversation. You and I would work for this organization.
Yes.
And Marvin and I can come from our cars in the morning, and I can walk here wimpy, crying, sad, with a box of tissue, and everybody will be okay with me doing that. She's just expressing herself. Women are emotional. But you don't have the same luxury I have.
Exactly, because we have been able to create what I would say, we've derived, is it called masculinity and femininity, and we've rolled it,
yes,
and we've given it specific expectations,
yes,
and some of those expectations are such that within the level of masculinity, you're expected to deal with your issues, quote unquote, as a man. And dealing with your issues as a man ideally means that if you're unable to deal, you'll need to cope. And coping, one of the easiest way to cope is normally to get an interest in something that can sort of take your mind off
outside of yourself.
Outside yourself, and where substance abuse comes in. And that's where you mentioned about alcohol use disorder, which is one of the very key areas we tackle as zero, because yes, you're right that more men than women are highly likely to abuse their alcohol or even other specific drugs or other levels of addiction. So you find that we can also find addiction not just in substance abuse. You could find in gambling,
sex addiction,
addiction in sex. You could find addiction in work. So you can easily become a workaholic because you're imagining you need something to take off your mind of something else that was there. And anything taken in excess as a coping mechanism is highly likely to affect you negatively. So I think the big question we want to answer and help each other get is to get to the root cause of why and see whether there is any possibility that, we can reverse or equalize or make it possible to reach a world where, we have less cases of people having to go on the extreme side simply because of, mental health.
Yeah, I love how you've broken everything down, because I've thrown a lot at you,
Yes.
but I didn't want to do a Q&A. I wanted you to speak freely, guiding the conversation where you see comfortable. I also want you to define for us terms that we see being tossed about in our society lately. Safe space for men. Last year in November, November is Movember.
Yes.
And it's all issues affecting the man. So health, so the testicular cancers and prostate cancers. But I also I did a 4-part series for Standard Digital.
Yes.
It's on their page. And I spoke to different pillars of our community. A man in sports. I spoke to a sports personality. I spoke to a journalist. I spoke to a doctor who is a psychologist. I spoke to different people. And what I got from my research and the entire conversation was, this is not something that starts from adulthood. We are skewed from it's from when children are little, and your son and your daughter both fall down, but you tell your son, don't cry, you are a boy, big boy, don't cry. Pain does not have any gender. They've both hit the floor, they're both bleeding on their knee, but the girl is fine to cry. Come here, mama, stop crying, you wipe her. But the boy is told, man up, don't cry. So you are as if you are born with different pain receptors. How do you fix someone that has been broken from that little? Who I feel like we are also ill-equipped as a society, because you come from a generation of people who are ill-equipped. They've raised you ill-equipped. They don't have the necessary tools to help you out of the issues you go through as men. Where does this conversation start from? Paint us a picture of what our tools and how we can help as a community, as a society.
So, yes, you've touched on a myriad of issues.
Yes. Sorry.
And, let me try to
make sense.
Let me try to make sense from it.
Yeah.
I'll start from the beginning.
Yes.
And, maybe you mentioned what would be definition of a safe space.
Yes.
And the definition would be, in my opinion, would be a creation of an environment that the individuals within that specific environment feel comfortable to be themselves.
Yes.
Without any need to pretend or without any need to act unnaturally. So for me, if there is such an environment, I would call it a safe space.
I like that.
And the question then you brought out is, you've touched on a number of issues, one of it being traditional gender roles and expectations and parenting. And there are very many theories that you'd want to really look at, because then there are elements of different societies have different expectations and pillars of what defines masculinity, what defines femininity. What I feel we should do more is we need to have a bigger focus on defining humanity, because the element of trying to differentiate personality on biological anatomy, in my opinion, is where we get it wrong. Because
I love that.
The element of humanity is a shared one. And once we have an element of humanity, it is important to define that the different people have different strengths, whether they are male or female. So there are females who's, as a parent, you can tell they're stronger, even among your children. You might find that your girl has actually more capacity to deal with issues, and your boy probably deals with it differently.
I really love that.
And it's important for you to strengthen every human to the level of their strengths, because in a full society, we still expect to have those who are strong pillars, and we still expect those who are subjectively I would call them failures in terms of the fact that they may appear weak physically, but they also have the strengths that they bring on the table in terms of empathy, in terms of sympathy, in terms of how they want to look into that.
Yeah.
Now, the problem comes when you want to attribute these personalities purely on anatomy. No, it should be a personality, and therefore your role as a parent is to try and ensure that the personality traits you bring in your children should be those that echo and bring out that humanity. Because once that occurs, then whether it is a boy or whether it's a girl, because these are issues, we all have a brain, we all have a soul, we all think, we all undergo these particular issues,
yes.
Then we'll be able to get through there. But come say that, the question is where are we? There are also expectations in terms of societies. The African society, we normally call it African and even a bit of Asian. It's called a high context society.
Yes.
And we have low context society, which are more direct, like the Europeans and the a lot of Americans. And the question is that within a high context society, the way we communicate with each other is not very. We communicate. We do not say what we want. A lot of the time. So you find that you're elderly even when they're talking to you, or even when they're warning you, or when you're communicating within an African society. There's an element whereby certain things are not said directly. They're said in a certain manner. So we have nuances that are created. Now, unfortunately, within some of those nuances,
yes,
are nuances of creating where there is masculinity being nuanced already.
Yes.
In a certain level.
Yes.
So without even anyone telling you,
it's subliminal messaging.
Yes, there's just, you feel this is the expectation of what needs to happen. So I feel like the essence of such discussion is to make us aware of those nuances, so that those that occur or that are likely to lead us astray, or that are likely to make us not go the right way, we are a bit more aware about it. So that now when you're speaking to your young man, when you're speaking to your girl, you are more aware that there are certain words that you can say that can reinforce certain mechanisms and that can easily reduce their ability to be a person, to be a human being. Because when we speak about sobriety, and the reason why we really normally talk about even a zero, we really focus on sobriety, because initially we were more like we are against addiction, and we are forcing, and we found ourselves that our nuance was already very negative. That when people see you, they feel like you're already here to fight,
authoritarian, and like, no, it's not understanding or empathetical.
We wanted to be understanding and saying, hey, listen, whatever it is that you're facing, there is a sober line.
Yes.
Now, this sober line is where we need to be. Now, if all of us start to engage, what is the sober line when it comes to the element of the boy child? What is the sober line when it comes to the element of the girl child?
Yes.
And how do we ensure that the boy child has an equal level of optimizing their humanity? So as a parent, I feel that it is upon us to ensure that the safe space that we referred to earlier starts at the mother's knee.
I love this conversation. I love where your head is at. And because just to cut you short and kind of veer off course a little, every time we have a conversation about the mental health space and we pick a gender, we always want to pit it against the other gender. You're the first mental health advocate who has sat on that chair and has not said, even us, you've not come with your isms. Yes. You've come to talk about this from a humanity level, and saying that everyone has a brain, everyone has emotions. No, let's not split hairs and say the gender you assigned at birth. So, of course, we'll have some varied issues that only will be tailor-made to a man and others to
the different hormones.
But I love the bigger conversation you're saying is our meeting point is humanity.
We are humans. You see, the point is, and I normally say, if you look at some of the challenges that we've looked at, I remember if you go back to the elements of gender.
Yes.
So in the 1990s, I think it was around mid-90s when we had the Beijing conference, and there was a lot of talk about
negative talk,
women empowerment.
Yes, negative talk.
And the feeling thereafter was that there was so much focus, maybe on girl child, and people felt like, hey, I think maybe as a result of that, the boy child was neglected. Behind. And then there's been a lot of now focus on people saying, now we want to focus on the boy child. And my question keeps saying, come on, I think the whole essence here is we are wrong ab initio. We need to just have focused on the child.
Period.
Because if we start focusing on the child and we're focusing on the child regardless of the gender, then what we are doing is we are creating a society where every child feels heard. And every child feels participatory, and every child feels that they are part and parcel of this journey. And in that case, then, even where there are specific affirmative actions taken, they are more equitable and not necessarily suppressive. So we want a mechanism of a lot of individuals coming on board and feeling we are part and parcel of this journey. And that's why I go back and saying, let us start treating our young ones as human beings, and with hindsight, with ability to think behind, having already gone through some of those particular stages. The advantage of age is that it allows you to think back in your youth and understand some of the follies of your youth. But it also allows you to ensure that the generation that comes after you is a generation that is being guided in a manner you wish you were guided. So we have a responsibility as parents, we have a responsibility as a community to start thinking, what is it that we need to do? And when it comes to elements of saying, what about those men who have already undergone, what I would say, a society, and they've been steeped in a certain way, to the extent now, how do we make them start feeling here? And that's why you brought out the element of safe space. And I'm happy for the example, the fact that, I'm having this conversation, and it's not a man at the other end of the line. It's actually a lady bringing out and saying, we'd like to look at this issue. Because then what it means is that by having such conversations often, by you holding such a conversation, you're part of the solution. You're part of the solution because there's someone somewhere listening who is actually saying, hey, I may have been brought out to think that I'm gendered this way.
Yes.
And therefore I'm supposed to react this way.
Yes.
But no, I do not necessarily have to think this way. I could probably start, expressing myself a bit more. And opportunities to pour your emotions, opportunities to share your space. Let me give an example of what we've done at Zero that has been very helpful.
Please.
So one of the few things, at Zero, and maybe just the background is one of the reasons I founded Zero was because I personally struggled through addiction.
Wow.
In my high school years.
Yes.
And partly campus. And what happens is that alcohol addiction, and after my recovery, and just realizing that journey around 15 or so years later, I basically discovered that a lot of the issues that I went through because at that juncture, at such a young age, I didn't know better. And no one told me better. And I felt if I do not get to do that, then I'll be part and parcel of the problem, because there will be another generation that will not know better. So what we do at Zero is, one, we have a lot of interventions, especially for the youth below the age of 18,
yes,
to make sure that rather than dealing with addiction once you're already there, let's prevent it.
Preventative measures, I love that.
So we look at that. And then for those ones who we have, we also realized the social aspect. The social aspect of community has proven to be more powerful than even the rehabilitative and medical interventions that you have.
Because they come at the tail end.
Exactly. So the social aspect, the people, like you find someone is highly likely to get themselves addicted if they do not have a human touch, if they do not have someone they can actually talk to. And this has been worsened by the fact that we now have things that we think are friends, friends, digital friends on our Instagram, on our whatever, and the pressures that we face, we see there.
Yeah.
So what happens is that there is a life that we live, and then there is a life that, we expect others to live, or they're showing us they're living. But you see, the life they demonstrate to us is rarely the reality.
True.
So what happens is that everyone positions only the best version of themselves.
Very true.
So what happens is that when you're comparing yourself, you're comparing yourself among who is the better branding expert among your friends.
Yeah, very true.
It's not
because reality and illusion.
The reality is very different.
Very true.
So for you, you're thinking, hi. Especially, like for men. Let me give an example. When we go for alumni groups,
yes.
I was in Lenana School. So you can imagine that a majority of people who attended some of your schools, you meet some of these particular national schools.
They're doing like this.
They feel like the,
German machine.
Very high achievers, you get. So I might use, for example, like one of my classmates ahead of me is the governor of Nairobi.
True.
So ideally, when you are meeting, you're asking yourself, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm having these particular people coming to my alumni groups who are achieving A, B, C, D. But the question is that we do not look at success. We purely look at it from what other people show you, but we don't
no
look
one
at
posts their failures
in terms of, or even in terms of just basically, the basic success of a human being, for me, is peace and happiness. Are you at peace and are you happy?
Yeah.
And is whatever you are doing something that makes you feel peaceful and you feel happy where you are?
But we live in a capitalistic world where we've attached value to material things.
We've attached value
Marvin.
to things. And the thing is, that occurs until you discover it's not. Because even if you look at...
And some people never discover.
No, let's look at the Maslow's laws of hierarchy. And,
yes.
And, we say that initially, when you do not have money, you really need it because of the basic things. You need your
food, clothing,
stuff.
shelter.
And for that, it is actually, everyone will have that. And beyond that, you'll go to your second level where you need security. You need to know, okay, I actually need security. And that's actually important. You don't want to live in a risky whatever.
True.
But then after that, there is now a third element where you need some social engagement, where you feel like now I need to be in a position to know where my cousins are and how they live.
True.
And you want to have those particular social networks. And those are important. But then you always go beyond that. You find that there is now a higher version whereby the really true happiness starts now to occur beyond that item of showing other people. Because you see, there is an element where you, for example, let me use an example of you do not have money, so you buy a first Kabambe phone.
Yes.
And you buy your Kabambe phone because you need to communicate to someone.
Very basic.
And it is very basic. So the 2000 phone does that for you.
True.
And then thereafter, you feel you need WhatsApp and you need something like that. So you need to be able to engage and send a WhatsApp. You need a smartphone.
Yes.
And you can get a basic smartphone at 8,000-10,000 shillings.
Even 6,
and it does
5.
that for you. But the problem, it's not as fast as you'd want to do it.
Yes.
You
Even the memory.
Even the memory.
The pictures.
So when you get more, you might want to buy more. And you might now reach a level where you're like, you'll need to get a phone worth maybe 10,000-15,000.
Yes.
Now, what would happen is that if once you pass a phone that you can buy, say, at 50,000 shillings,
yes,
what I can assure you is that the difference between a phone of 50,000 and one for 300,000 is very mental. It's just an idea. Like you actually have to, you have to actually tell someone, for example, and I like what iPhone do. So if someone has an iPhone 13 and a 16, sometimes they actually have to tell you, but this is not 13, this is actually 16. Because it is important for you to actually know. You get?
My producer is saying, stop talking about his host loudly on her show. you are shouting.
You get, because the point is that at that juncture,
Very true.
It is important for you to know what I have.
Yes.
So I'm doing this for you. And that's why I say that it is important for us to now reach level where we ask ourselves, at what point does happiness stop being your happiness?
And it's a communal.
Then becomes now, I want to make Yolanda happy.
Yes.
Or I want to see that Yolanda needs to see I'm happy.
Yes.
So if you now need to now reach that level.
I love it.
And I'm thinking that's the reason why when I'm coming here, I'm not even talking to my fellow men. I'm talking to my fellow humanity.
Yes.
And I'm saying, whether you are a man or whether you are a woman.
Yeah.
We get ourselves depressed because we are busy fighting for other people's happiness beyond ourselves. And if we were to be true to ourselves, the level of happiness we'll need very little to survive. If you are to, right now, Yolanda, if you were to wake up whatever you own today,
yes,
and whatever you have today, if you were to wake up 200 years ago, you'll be the richest man in the world.
Of course.
You'll be the richest. The kind of things that you have today, someone, a king, a president, 200 years ago would only wish for. Would only say, wow, I wish I can actually call someone who is away and tell them. They would have to send a bird or do something.
Or a person
to get things done. So whatever we have today is a high level of luxury that we take for granted. And we don't take for granted because it doesn't fit us. We take for granted because we compare, and comparison for sure is the thief of joy.
Absolutely.
So that element of comparison, and which unfortunately as men we tend to be very competitive.
Yes.
Now our competitiveness is such that we are not only happy with us achieving what we want, but we'd want to achieve what we want to be better than yours. So it's not just a matter of I want to be happy because this is what I want to have. So the whole essence of us really getting to the bottom of peace and happiness is contentment. We need to preach contentment.
Oh, I say contentment is in fact, I wanted to get a tattoo. Contentment is the greatest virtue. A content heart is loved by both itself and by others.
Exactly. That's what it.
But I love what you're saying. How many people get to the level where they live, not agree with your sentiments, they live by the words that you have uttered sitting on that chair? Very hard. We are in a very visually stimulating atmosphere. The world as it is the truth.
It is.
You're not going to say, I'm not going to join. City Muga just joined Instagram the other day, and I was like, lucky dude. And he only did it because our producers must tag him to an account.
Yes.
Otherwise, he's lived a pretty peaceful life. But the rest of us, oh my God. And then followers, and then clicks. Even radio presenters, we have now been reduced to the amount of followers we have, not the impact our shows have.
The vanity matrix. And I look at digital and social media, and I try not to look at it negatively fully or 100%.
Yeah.
I mean,
it does have his.
I'm looking at it from a both engagement.
Yes.
And what will happen is that the whole essence of digital media as is today is that it's, for the first time ever, it's been able to flatten our communication as a global village. And what would happen is that we're now finding that you can have a child born in Kenya today can have the same level of expectations as a child born in Japan and a child born in the USA, because they can actually see and expect what is the level of expectation that would have to be. What just needs to happen is that even as that happens, and it's upon us as maybe parents and guardians and even we ourselves to now start learning at what point do we now start to make sure that this new technology that we do have acts as a tool and rather than immerse us. Because if we start by defining addiction, addiction is whenever you get to anything to a level whereby your previous essence of normalcy is now dictated by the new habit you're taking.
So you have brought up another, you've added to the list of addiction.
Yes, it could be this. It could be your Bible. You get, it's good to read your Bible, but honestly, if every time I come to your place, that's all you're doing, then that's addiction. So the whole essence is that we have to look at everything as a tool. And if we have everything as a tool, we talked about the word contentment, but there's another beautiful word I love.
Yes.
It's called moderation.
Moderation. What we left in the 90s. What do we do in moderation, though, Marvin?
Exactly. You know, whatever it is that we do.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that we eat, you have to eat in moderation.
I
think there is a presidential candidate. I can't remember his name. Was it Didi or whoever was? There's a presidential candidate who actually said that when you eat, you make sure that you do not eat to full. You eat to 30, 70% or 80%. And he sounded comical because he was on a podium and he was saying, you know, don't eat to the level where you're really full. But that's really true, that whatever it is that you're doing, you need to make sure that if you are able to get an A is what, 70%?
Yes.
Yeah, once you reach your A, please, there's no difference between a 71 and a 99%.
Contentment.
Be content at 71 and move on. It is important for us to live in moderation. And if we are able to get the spirit of moderation, the spirit of contentment as humanity, then we will be able to have this done for both men, for women, and we will be able to get ourselves to the level where we can soberly approach and look at this life. Because the thing about life is, Yvonne, Yolanda, none of us is coming out of it alive. So we would rather enjoy the ride in a manner that, you know, that befits it. And we can only enjoy the ride if we can only enjoy the ride if we don't take it too seriously.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I want to put a comma on that. I'm afraid I have to ask you to stay on a little longer. Okay. I know we were capping our conversation. I had stop at 1:00, yes. But unfortunately we cannot. Plus you were late, so you owe us 10 minutes after the news. So I have to get into an ad break. Someone has to keep the lights on. Okay. And then when we come back, can we take some messages, because you have some messages, so that they don't say sasa yoni safe space aje na kuacha tuonge. So you can also hear from your brothers. You can speak to them and address some of the comments and remarks that they've made online.
I'm happy to hear.
Fun live right now in our great nation, and the budget is being read tomorrow. So you can imagine what we are all. Let's not even forget about our men.
No, it's actually weird enough a good thing that we have this level of emotions as a nation, because I would be a bit surprised if something were to happen
and we didn't care.
No one cared. Okay. So the fact that people seem to care is a good thing, and people are making noises is a good thing.
The noises they're making and what they're asking for, you know, when we reach a point where you can cut through the anger. That's how.
And anger is a good thing. It is. I think the nation we have has been built on our forefathers who were angry at some level of status quo and did something about it. So being angry is correct if you are able to channel that anger to the
but the tools that now, you know, now us guys don't have spears and machetes and bows and arrows. Yes. Now we have the internet, but the same internet that we are using is
you have a hashtag. You know, it's like saying, you know, having a panga or a djembe. I mean, you could use the same tool to do cultivation. You could also use it for harm. So whatever tools we do have, I think it's just a matter of how do we channel them.
No, it's so funny. Jeff will tell you, you're from our school of thought, my school of thought. Last week I was saying that the internet is a double-edged sword. Yes. It's like fire. I equate the internet to fire. You can use fire to cook a man,
exactly.
And you can use fire to cook food. To
Exactly.
eat. So it depends on
it's a
how
good thing. So I'm actually happy. I'm happy when I see noise happening. If something were to happen and I get abducted and something were to happen to me, in my afterlife, I'll be extremely happy if those noises were to happen thereafter. So
Jesus me, I didn't say that. I don't want to be abducted. Me, I'm fine where I am. Thank you very much. And him by himself. Just so we are clear.
But yes, it's a good thing. We care for each other as Kenyans, and it's a beautiful country. You know, the anger that we see is an anger that comes out of love and out of care.
That
and
is
out
true.
of just feeling,
because indifference
how
would
dare
be the
you
problem.
do that? How dare you do that? And that's a good society to be in.
I love that.
That's why I'm actually it's a good society to be in. Yes.
Maybe I've been a little ungrateful. I've just been like,
no, it is.
This is a lot.
It is purely a very good. The fact that we can raise sufficient noise to make it a national conversation.
International. We're trending at number 13 internationally.
And that's beautiful because it basically ascribes to what humanity is all about. That one life matters.
I love that. That one life matters.
Yeah.
And the one thing about our country is we will fight and bicker and say all manner of things until you touch the hair on one of our heads.
Exactly.
And then you will understand that we are cousins.
No,
I've heard today we are calling each other cousins online.
It is important, obviously. I mean, as humanity, we all came from one person. So ultimately, if you think about it, we are, you might call it cousins, but I'm just saying we are humans. And the fact that we are human is a good thing. Is a good thing.
I love it.
To really look at that.
I love it. We have Marvin Sissey, the founder of Zero, in studio with me today, and our conversation has been the quiet spiral, men, mental health, and the addictive escapes. But we decided to just blow it out of the can and have so many conversations. I feel like we're not going to get to not a conclusive end, because there's no conclusive end to mental health conversations, but I feel like we're not going to exhaust what we're supposed to talk about today, and I feel like we're going to have a to be continued. There's a few comments. I want you to just feel free to speak about them. I will release you soon enough, but as long as you promise that you're going to come back, because we're not done. We've barely scratched the surface with our conversation.
Definitely. This is definitely. I'm always happy to be here and always happy to come back.
Okay. Although Jeff was telling me, you promised Edward Kwach a second interview, and see how that went. So I'm going nowhere. Don't worry. Me, I don't say things that are kidnap worthy. You've been saying, someone says, Fedros Kiach is listening to us from Naivasha, Kayore, Sanel Center, and he's enjoying our conversation, or rather enlightened by the conversation. Baba Wanda is also listening. MC Kadida Peter from Kiambu. Jackie Soni Kadija says, hi cousins. And I want you to address a message on X from Stephen.
Yes.
You can read it. Can you see? Do you need me to make it
says
bigger?
that the society was not designed for men to be human. That we were to be robotic. We don't have emotions. We are supposed to protect, and we're supposed to to help define the man you want to be. Which is, Stephen lays out clearly the issue we are dealing with. That we've created this creature called a man, and given it certain aspirations, certain descriptions, certain expectations, to the extent that when this creature falls short, as he is likely to, then you leave him at his own devices, and many of them are not able to cope. And I feel that the first route of solving a problem is defining it and being aware of it.
Yes.
And the fact that we are, as a society, defining that we have a problem, the fact that we're recognizing that we do have an imbalance, is in itself a very important step to ensuring that we make things right. So, as Stephen says, we tend to think of our men as robots. And I would just say, we do not do that. We start thinking of them. We start thinking of our brothers. We start thinking of our sons. We start thinking of our husbands, of our fathers, of our grandfathers, that they are human. And being human, they bleed. And being human, they cry. And being human, they feel the pain. And being human, they fall short. And it is important for us to bring a spirit of empathy and a spirit of understanding.
Yeah.
And go back to where we started. Create the whole environment that we live in every day to be a safe space. Not just for men, but for humans. For men, for women, for girls, for boys. Let us feel that we are okay being who we are. That it is okay to not get what you wanted to. But more importantly, it is okay to define your own aspirations as a human being.
Yes.
And try to achieve them and enjoy the journey. Just enjoy the journey, because no one is going to make a decision in terms of what levels are you achieving on that specific journey. It's your personal journey. So Yolanda, you have your own journey. I have mine. The producer Jeffy has his, and it is important that you enjoy that journey.
Yes.
And you make it count for you. And does that mean that you cannot, be a little bit hard on yourself? Does that mean that you cannot say, I want to achieve better? You can. But the only person you should try to strive to be better than is the person you were yesterday.
I love that. You're only competing with yourself.
Just compete with yourself. That's it. So make yourself a better human today than you were yesterday. Don't care about the person on the other lane. It is not a race.
It is not.
Yes.
It is not. And I like that you brought about a little empathy, because there is stigma when men come out. As much as you ask for safe spaces to articulate and air out your concerns, and I'll give you a case in point. Boniface Mwangi, without it being a political conversation, of course, a week ago has a presser and speaks about what he went through in the hands of the Tanzanian authorities. And I was so ashamed. In fact, I started off the show with not even telling people what to look out for on the show. But I was very disappointed in the men in the comment section telling him, hey, Baba, those are things you die with. Those are not things you admit to. Share. People are done for these things. Ati unawezaje ambia watu umekuwa
things.
And I'm like, you are the same ones who are telling us that you want safe spaces, when one of you should really be behind them. So how do we end the stigma? Because the stigma, you're going to tell me hurt people. But how do we end it, even within your community as men?
The thing about stigma,
yes,
is that stigma is something. It's an imagination in your head. Stigma is an imagination in your head. At any one, I remember at the peak of 2020.
Yes.
During COVID, and some of us would not, as much as say hi to each other or even get close to each other, because there's something we did not understand, and COVID was something new, and we all behaved in a manner that, so stigma was a human reflection of, there's a flight or freeze. It's a human reflection of not understanding what you're doing. There was a time a while back when someone being HIV positive, one was a death sentence, and even the whole point of anyone feeling that he had HIV positive was said in harsh tones, and there was a lot of stigma about it. And while we have not yet completed or gone out of it, but it's now more openly understood. People are likely to come out and understand that this is a syndrome and it can be dealt with that. So a lot of the stigma we're facing is because of lack of knowledge, lack of understanding. And the only way to deal with it is by more awareness. more education, more advocacy, more understanding that it doesn't help to broadcast your ignorance ever so often. And
wow, let's shut down Twitter while we're at it, because that's all we do is sow the empty insides of our heads.
Yes, because I feel like as more people, and you know, there's something I normally say, that the very unfortunate bit, we have people who are competent, and then we have people who are confident, and sometimes the two don't come in one box.
Very true.
And unfortunately,
hardly ever.
Unfortunately, the people who shout more,
yes,
the people who talk more,
yes,
the people who opine more,
yes, know the least,
are more confident.
Yes.
And their confidence pushes them to share whatever it is that they feel is their way of life. And yet the people who are competent, the people who have an understanding, unfortunately lack the level of confidence to shine their competence to the world. And that is why I feel, as a society, we deserve to give the competent a little bit more space, a little bit more airtime, a little bit more microphones in their head, and let them share their competence to the world, because the world requires more competence. And the people who are more competent are more empathetic, they're more human, they're more understanding, they are less judgmental, and that kind of attribute, by promoting it.
Yes.
And we promote it through storytelling. We promote it through open conversation. We promote it through dialogue. And such dialogues like the one we're having today, and we keep having them. And if you are a father, if you are a mother, then you have, the society has bestowed on you the highest level of responsibility to ensure that this story, this alignment that you wish for, it is within your hands. And that baby, when they are born, from the time they start to the mother's knee, and we normally say the mother's knee, but I feel the father's knee should not be far away. They should be guided according to a society that you feel is equitable, that is fair, that makes them human. And when we do that, we will end up tomorrow with a society that is less judgmental, with a society that we look at each other and try to see how do we help each other to be better.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I know we are short on time. My producer is going to put his knee, the knee you're talking about. The producer's knee is also not far from the father's and mother's knee. That knee is going to be on my neck soon.
I know.
So to wrap it up, but you live with a to be continued.
Yes.
What are you leaving us with? What is your parting shot on the conversation, the quiet spiral, men, mental health, and the addictive escapes? It is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. What are you leaving us with to hang on to until the next time you're here with us?
Coming from zero, where we advocate for sobriety, where we advocate for moderation, and where we advocate for contentment within lines of ordinariness.
Yes.
I would just say that, to my fellow men, it's never that serious. None of us is coming out of this life alive. While we are alive, let us enjoy every moment.
Yes.
Let us be human. Let us feel it. Let us feel every moment. Let us cry. Let us be happy. Let us shout. But more importantly, let us embrace each other. Let us understand each other. Because ultimately, it comes down to we ourselves being open to being vulnerable for our own growth.
Yay! I love it. Thank you so much, Marvin Sissey, the founder of Zero, who has promised he's going to come here. Yesterday, when I posted when I put up your poster on my own personal number on WhatsApp and whatnot, someone said, "Let this man talk for 2 hours. I like what he has to say," and it was a woman.
Thank you.
Yeah, so don't feel isolated as men. We are in this together. The more we talk about it, the more we will understand you, and the more we will learn how to create the safe spaces that you guys so need. We need you guys to be okay. I want you guys to be okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So take care of yourself. I'll be playing